2, 1, and booster ignition and liftoff of Space Shuttle Discovery, taking the space station to full power for full science.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Mike with FormAWin here to help you guys get your first engineering job. Today we have Trey, one of our star clients who got into SpaceX. Let's get into it.
FormAWin for over 4 months now.
Part of the FormAWin community for a couple months now.
I just got my first internship.
Just landed my first internship.
Biggest thing I want you guys to do is take one thing away from today. Make sure you implement it, change your life.
100% directly resulted in me getting an internship offer.
Trey, welcome in, man. Good to see you again. For everybody that didn't see our first video, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna link it right here, right now. But Trey, what's going on, man? How's life been?
What's up, Coach Mike? It's been great. Super grateful for my most recent opportunity. It's going amazing. I'm getting a lot more consistent recently, so everything's kind of paying off. As you know, it's been a long journey, but hard work pays off, and here we are.
1,000%, man. Yeah. And then, for everybody watching right now, we're going to kind of break through what Trey's journey has been inside of Formula One as well as his engineering journey so far. So I'm gonna let him kind of give an intro about himself. Again, go watch our first video. But he's been making some massive progress, massive moves. I'm super proud of him. He's one of our top clients. And Trey, why don't you just kind of give everybody the rundown of who you are, X, Y, and Z, and talk about the full-time offer you had and then kind of where we're at now.
Before we get into the video, in case you do not know who I am, I want to introduce myself. I'm Michael DeLeo. I started FormAWin about 3 years ago. I've worked at Siemens Energy, Lockheed Martin, and now Northrop Grumman. I've been in the industry for about 10 years, and since then, I've spoken with thousands of students, spoken on stages, helped dozens get into their dream careers, and I'm here to change your life. So make sure you pay attention, take notes. Let's get into the video.
Yeah. So my name's Trey. I started out at UCF with the goal of getting in the aerospace community. I'm an aerospace engineering major, senior right now. So something that was really, really important to me was landing obviously like a full-time role before leaving college, trying to set myself up for success. So around sophomore year, I started to figure out like, okay, I need to be doing a lot more than what I'm doing. And I need to do that consistently. And that's how I ran into Coach Mike here, right? So at that time, I didn't have anything set up. So this would have been pushing for summer 2025 was the goal to obtain an internship. And we had a lot of, win checks and goals for me weekly. And one of them was to go to networking events, right? I think one of those weeks you set the goal of like 5 or so, right? So we were pretty ambitious, and one of them happened to just be like a real estate summit, a woman's real estate summit. And interestingly enough, there were engineers there for the company, Kimley Horn. And I was talking to them. That's the internship I landed for summer 2025, for anyone wondering. And so I was just talking to them, had no idea what Kimley Horn was. They were civil engineers, never really applied to any civil engineering jobs, definitely like mechanical, aerospace, like loads, but no civil. It didn't really cross my mind. And I was just talking with him. It went well. Of course, got their numbers right, wrote that down, kept track of everything like we talk about. And I applied for a position there. And I actually also went to a career fair at UCF like a month or so prior, and I never heard back from the recruiter. But all of a sudden, like a day after that meet, I heard back from him, Adam, who I met at the career fair. He's like, "Hey, I just talked to the guys I talked to at this other networking event. It all came full circle, such that like 1 week later, I had the interview, and then one more after that, and then I got the job." I was super grateful, right? Engineering internships, an engineering internship. It might not have been aerospace, but got a ton of practical and technical experience. So I was super grateful, super happy, and just did my best to, kick ass at that internship. And it went really well because they gave me a full-time offer. So I have until August to decide whether or not I, continue with the company, of course.
Let's pause
So
right there really quick, make sure everybody understands that. So Trey joined our program, went through all this, and one of the biggest takeaways, I mean, we're going to get into it, and again, watch his previous video, but one of the biggest things there that he did was plant seeds and let those seeds grow and harvest by just being a genuine good person, following a good strategy, following up, like a good system to make sure we're tracking everybody and treating our career like a business. We talk about that all the time. So that led to his internship in summer of 2025. All right. And then that led to what he was just saying was a full-time offer. How many months before you graduated? When did you get that in respect to like how many months you had? Like was it
A
8 months?
year. So like literally 12 months. Yeah.
So a year before he was graduating, he had a full-time offer ready to go. Okay. So now I'm gonna let you kind of pick up the story from there. Go ahead.
Good pickup. Yeah, because I know I was kind of all over the place, but yeah, so I was super grateful. So it would be for this coming August, which is also when I graduate. And it was a full-time offer with Kimley Horn as a civil engineer, great company. Still have that as a an option, which is incredible. But I didn't want to limit myself to just that opportunity, right? So kept the strategy going, kept treating the career like a business, and you want to have leverage in a business, right? So I was like, okay, I'm studying aerospace engineering. Let me do my best to try to obtain an aerospace engineering internship. So same goals, different timeline. It would have been for this coming summer, right? So I started ruthlessly applying again and networking and planting loads and loads of seeds, which I'll actually talk about for how SpaceX was landed in a bit here, I'm assuming. But landed one for this summer to be a launch engineer. So super happy about that. I'm going to do my best to, work really hard there and hopefully obtain a full-time offer coming right out of college with them, and ideally have the ability to choose. And of course, if not, I'm not going to tell myself I will get it. I'm going to work for it. But if not, there's still Kimley Horn to go to. So, yeah, it all really came full circle. And I'm just excited for what's next.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Coach Mike. Real quick, last interruption. I just wanted to note for you guys that every strategy we're about to go through, everything we're about to talk about is never released before inside of FormAWin, never released before inside of the industry. You're never going to find anything like this anywhere else, so make sure you pay attention. We probably released a little bit more than we should have, but hey, we want to help you guys out. We're fully confident that any company you want to get into, we can make a call, we can get you in there, we can show you the right strategy to get to your dream. So if you need help with anything, go down below or just shoot us a text at 305-923-8724. Again, 305-923-8724. Make sure you pay attention and take one thing out of the video. Love you guys. Let's get into it.
Yeah, Trey, man, it's some crazy stuff, man. Again, I'm super proud of you. And I just remember at the beginning of this semester, because at that point, like you're in FormAWin, you're in our community, you're doing all this stuff. Then you called me up because I already knew that we had the full-time offer, you had the internship. I was like, all right, you're all set. And I think that they even said that you could maybe come back as an intern for the summer. I forgot where.
Yep.
Yeah, right. So, all right. So like in my eyes, you were set, you were happy. And then you called me up and then we were saying, all right, Mike, I actually, you know what, I want to go for one better. Right. And then then there I was like, all right, full force, let's go. Let's get a strategy. We met, we had our discussion. You re-enrolled, we got started again. And then from there, the rest was history. And again, just to reiterate one more time, I'm super proud of you. And then for everybody watching, right, the goal here with FormAWin and what we do, and Trey is now a living testament of this. And like, again, like there's only so much I can do. You also have to be an amazing person, and Trey is, right? So with the right tools, the right strategies, this is where you can now say, hey, I want to go to any company, do anything I want to do, and we're fully confident that we can get you in there, right? And that's exactly kind of what we did with Trey, and that's what Trey did for himself too. He went in there, got his foot in the door, made stuff happen, made genuine connections, and we're going to kind of detail out what that looked like in total, but I just want to emphasize that as well. The whole system with FormAWin, you guys can go check it out on our website as well as in the description. I'm going to be putting a few other clips in here too, but the whole strategy with FormAWin is to take this holistically and number one, get the internship, get the full-time opportunity, but then also after that, it's like that's the tip of the mountain. That's the tip of the pyramid. And as we're growing and as we're scaling and as we're looking to do this, instead of taking 4 years to do this in like a normal traditional bachelor's or just a normal traditional time frame, my goal, our goal, his goal, our goal, who goal is to just make this happen as soon as possible and compress the time frame. Because at that point, you can get in a position like Trey and say, hey, actually, now I want to do something else, or really just control your future instead of just taking the first thing that comes available. Right. A lot of people fall into that. A lot of people also get internships and then they don't, maximize it, where then at the end of the internship, they're not getting a return offer or they're not able to set themselves up to go externally elsewhere because they don't track their people and they don't track their career like a business. Right. So that's a whole detailed approach. And that's what we like to do. Right. So I just want to emphasize our program and what that looks like. right? Just for everybody watching and awareness. And now we'll kind of get into exactly what Trey did and, his story and his journey. So Trey, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that or.
No, I mean, just to reiterate, probably couldn't have done it without you because it's, treating your career like a business, didn't really think of it that way. And of course, like all the little goals, and like now we look back and say it was planting seeds, whereas at the time it was just, why am I going to a real estate summit? It was just, it was just happened to be a goal for that week just to go to networking events. You literally never know. Like you can't sell yourself short of any opportunity, and that's kind of what coaching does because it's more of a like a consistent way of going about how do I get to that next step, and then what's after that, right, and preparing for that. So
Definitely, man. Yeah, and again, like you're an awesome student, and the biggest thing for everybody watching, if you have a mentor or a coach, just be a star student, be a star client, because then you get the most out of life, and that's just the only way to live. So we're gonna start talking about SpaceX now and how we got into that. So we have some questions here that I want to go over just to make sure our audience gets the most out of this time. But for you specifically, let's start with how you landed it, right? When did the first opportunity come up with this? But I also want to unpack that because you've had lots of connections going into it, right? There was a lot of this time was like an ultra mega strategy seed planting
yeah,
extravaganza, and I loved every second of it. It was
yeah.
so cool. So like just kind of unpacked how that came to be.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with the hard part. So every year or every semester I've applied to SpaceX, and I've never made it past, the reading of my resume, right? I've never made it past the computer. Just constant failure, 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 failure. But just like SpaceX does, I learned from them. So with that, I of course applied this semester, right, for this summer. But I also had a lot more built up, not just in experience, but with how I knew, to go about the hiring process because you have to get past the computer. So one of the things that, obviously we do a lot in FormAWin is, of course, networking, right? And a specific type of outreach that to really understand, you guys are just going to have to click the link below. But to sprinkle a little coaching advice Dolly here taught me. You don't want to just reach out to the hiring manager and just say, like ask them, right, to review your resume or to look at, you don't want to just ask people for something. You want to somehow add value. And so I was just trying to do that as much as possible. And so what I would do a lot of is I would just reach out to people and say, hey, I have a quick question. And I would just ask them a question about their career, showing genuine interest. And then after a conversation, I had like 40 convos that were just nothing. Like they would just like a day. Like people, like I would hit up 40 people and like two would get back and be miracles. And those miracles were the ones that made the difference. Like people who just communicated with me, and then eventually I would ask them, who do you know? What do you know? What do you do? Right? Just get just general information. And I actually started doing a lot of that at Kinley Horn. I promise this wraps back to SpaceX. So one of the things I did was I outreach to some people in the Melbourne office. So I'm sat in Orlando, and I reached out to the people in the Melbourne office because they were actually doing work with SpaceX. And I just wanted to go learn, build connections. And it was an incredible, just one day experience. I won't say their names, but just great people, worked with them one day, learned a lot from them. And I ended up, when I scored the interview with SpaceX, the lady that I worked with actually knew Joel, who interviewed me. And right before I got on the interview call, he said, hey, Trey, I'm really excited for this. I just got off the phone with someone you worked with at Kinley Horn, and she had nothing but good things to say about you. I didn't ask her to do that. I never, it was amazing. I did let her know, like, hey, do you know Joel? He's interviewing me. I know you do work with a lot of the engineers at SpaceX. And she was like, oh, yeah, like, good luck with your interview. But then, call them up. So just that little thing right there, an action that took place during my internship that I had no idea would compound. And, that could have been what got me the job. Now, of course, like I made the actions, but so I can't give her all the credit. But little things like that make all the difference, right? And so that really, really set me up because now he's going into it with, okay, this guy's good. Like, let me see, like, if he's bad, right? And just asking good technical questions, and I was able to get through that. Which, so to initially get the interview, I just did a ton of outreach. Like I had maybe 4 or 5 HRs just like asking me about my application process because I was just keeping them updated. They were like, yeah, well, I'll see where you can fit. You know, they connect me with someone else. And I was just messaging like 15 people a day, which doesn't really sound like a lot, but I think for LinkedIn, like having 15 conversations going is pretty crazy. At least it was for me. Like in class, I would be like not paying attention to class because I was like trying to get back to these guys and girls. And it was amazing. So it all lined up. That was super helpful. And then for the second interview, something else I learned with coaching, what I would have done in the past is like try to learn a whole bunch of stuff and prepare and basically be someone I'm not. But what I instead focus on is, okay, what are my strengths? How can I communicate better, like what I have actually done instead of just communicating things I haven't done, and just being authentic. Um, and I also like had a big confidence booster from Kimley Horn and a couple other experiences to where it allowed me to just articulate like who I was, why I wanted to work at SpaceX, what I've done, what my experiences are. So the interview process went well, the connections were there, and it ultimately led to me scoring an internship for this summer.
Awesome. Yeah. So I definitely want to touch on a lot with that too. So I mean, I'll drop some nuggets here for you guys as well, like what we talked about. And the biggest thing as well as with coaching, it's not about, like, okay, go do this. It's about processing decisions and making things happen jointly. That's where like we partner up and then we fight for each other. That's what we do together. That's what coaching is. It's not just a mentorship call once a month or something, right? Those are great. And you guys are all going to get a lot of value out of today. You're going to be able to implement a lot of the stuff that we talk about here, but still, if you want to enhance your career, take it to the next level, you always need to get an edge. You always need to get an edge because at the end of the day, we are in a competition. No matter how it looks, there's only a handful of promotions. Not everybody's going to get promoted, and we're like that's just not how it works, right? So you definitely need to have an edge. But as far as Trey and like what he did, and it kind of set the stage here too. A lot of what we talk about in FormAWin, we've done videos on this, is something called a relationship bank, and Trey does this and manages this very well. Where we just envision like a relationship, like a bank. Okay, just you make a connection, maybe an HR person. Not to mention, he was talking to 5 HR people or however many it was. A lot of people struggle to make one connection with one HR person, so there's a lot of tactical things in there. But as far as the relationship bank goes, every connection, every person you're with, you have a relationship, right? And any positive deposit you make in there, compliment, respect, you repost their post, something like whatever it is, and it's going to range per person what the value is, but that's a positive deposit in the bank account. So $5, $10, boom, 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 boom. And then we need to make sure, and then what everybody does wrong is you don't do those positive deposits, or you miscalculate and you do one compliment, now we're up $5. Then you're like, hey, is there any open internships? Minus $50. So then we're negative in the bank account, right? And something to also remember is that there's maintenance fees in this bank account. So you need to keep these connections going. That's what he did over time, over the course of a few semesters. That's what he was able to do, facilitate these relationships, and that's how its true seeds get planted, right? And the whole thing here is practicing, getting reps. He comes to our calls, we follow up, we make sure all of these things are jointly happening because that's what training is. Training and training and education is something completely different. Training is something you should do today, tomorrow, and every single day for the rest of your life. It doesn't stop ever. You need to keep your skills going. They're like muscles. You need to keep training them, keep enhancing them, and make sure you stay active with them. That's what Trey does really well, and that's how we were able to land into this opportunity. So again, mad respect for that. And I do want to take a step back before we start talking about maybe like post what this looks like and why it happened, because if this one interview, if this one connection didn't pan out, we had like 7 others lined up, right? So why don't you talk about some of the other alternate opportunities or alternate paths we were going to take to get you inside of SpaceX?
Yeah, so I continued the networking strategies that we've been implementing for some time now. And one of them was at the Kennedy Space Center. There was a big networking event, and that was probably one of the best networking events. I don't know if it's just because of, time and I've had more experience at those kind of things, but like a lot of the recruiters like actually got back to me. It was incredible. So a couple of jobs there, Amentum, Blue Origin, NASA, and just super, super helpful people, like really, really worked out well to where I felt that even if SpaceX, told me, we want nothing to do with you, which was an option in my head, an outcome in my head. I had other things ready, right? It's all about leverage, a lot of little deposits, like you were saying, because it is like a bank portfolio or account. You're not going to put $10,000 in one stock. You're going to put like 1K into 10 stocks. Some of them hit, some of them don't. That's the same thing with people, right? Like hitting up a bunch of recruiters and literally none of them get back to you, which is actually more likely than those miracles that I mentioned earlier. But just staying consistent. And the same thing with the networking events. So like I'm into Blue Origin, NASA. One of the guys that I met there by the name of James Martinez was a fracture engineer for NASA. Incredible human, just so giving, helpful. I was connecting with him on LinkedIn. We were communicating on like a daily basis. And he had I forget what he called it. It was like an interesting way of putting it, but he basically had a ticket for a meeting because he was going to have people come down to watch the Artemis roll out, like execs. But it got pushed back, so it wasn't getting rolled out. So he told me, "Hey, I have a ticket for this tour with these people, but they're not coming. Like, do you want to just come? Like, just randomly on LinkedIn in between DMs." I'm like, "Whoa, are you kidding me?" And so I was like, "Yes, of course, right?" So we made it happen. He gave me like 5, 6 hours of his time. Met loads of people at NASA as well, engineers who I still have their emails and numbers. I followed up with all of them, actively communicating with 2 or 3 of them still. And that was incredible. And I learned so much. Like this would turn into an hour call. But in short, like, I mean, they're very opinionated on like going on the contractor side or going like, the government, public work, being a public servant. And it was really good food for thought. And then when I ended up landing the SpaceX internship, I reached back out to him, connected with him, said, "Hey, I just got this. Like, thank you again so much for your time, this, that, and the other. Like, I hope to work with you in the future." He completely supported the decision. Because it doesn't mean there's not a career for me one day at NASA. Maybe I do the contracting, and then after 3 years, their mission changes, and they're like, "We don't need you, Trey." Okay, and I go to NASA. Maybe you never know. So just setting myself up because maybe that tour ends up being a seed, like with Kimley Horn. But yeah, it was just a lot of that, and then of course applying to so many jobs and hitting up recruiters, anything from L3 Harris, Blue Origin, and the other guys that I mentioned, and just getting as much outreach as possible because that's really people are what make the difference. Um, like technical skills is one thing. Like I don't even think I'm the most technically versed person. I'm really not. Like there's a lot I can improve on. I'm pretty mediocre at everything, which I think is a good thing because I can have a conversation about stuff. But what's more important is the people you're talking to, how you come across, how you articulate who you are, what you can do, what you've done, and learn from it. And that's what a lot of this semester was. But I think I'm going to work at SpaceX. I don't think I haven't cranked out any jobs since I got the offer letter. So yeah, we're pretty locked in on that one. But I can start for fall. So, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it too, right, guys? Like, I mean, Trey, and then I mean, for everybody watching, like the beauty of him being able to be in this position where now he can call the shots instead of just taking whichever shot comes first. Realistically, what I want for all my clients, and now what you're able to do too, is really call anywhere and go anywhere you want to go. Between the L3 recruiter that you have a connection with, Blue Origin, all these other people, right? All of this was setting yourself up where now you have a business, which is your career, and now you can go facilitate and do whatever you want with that. The beauty of where you're at and being able to call anywhere and do whatever you want and go wherever you want to go, because that just sets you up to be a leader in the industry, right? Instead of just being captive to that one spot. But regardless, like we made your dream come true, which is cool. Like I want to circle back to some of the other opportunities you were pursuing there for SpaceX, but like a big thing for you as far as skill set goes. And what I teach to everybody is that AI is cool, right? To kind of go on the technical side because everybody focuses on technical skills and they think that's what matters. And like, yeah, like you can't be too stupid. But at the same time, we're all studying engineering, we're doing projects, we all have experience. As long as we're active, we are where our feet are and we're present in what we do, we're going to learn and retain a lot of information. So we don't have to go do extravagant things to become a top technical SME subject matter expert unless we are super passionate about that one thing. That's also what we teach. Because then it's just a waste of time if you're not super passionate about it. I'd rather us focus on the people skills, looping back to AI, because AI is cool, but it's not going to replace this. And you're going to always be working with people no matter what the situation is. You need to learn how to socialize, sell yourself, communicate, lead by example, and facilitate a team, because that's how you get into leadership roles as well. And Trey's setting himself up just to do exactly that, which is really cool. But going back to these SpaceX opportunities, right? Because when we call at the beginning of the semester, as well as what you started doing and new doors came your way, the biggest thing we like to talk about too is creating your own opportunities, which is great because a lot of people think some of this is luck. A lot of people think some of this is, just by chance, but it's also you being able to be receptive to opportunities. Because just imagine, for example, let's try to think of an example. Like, let's just say you have a grocery store, right? I don't know why I'm thinking of that. I mean, I just went to a grocery store, but let's say you have a grocery store and you're closed, right, between the hours of 5 to 9 p.m., right? That's typically a time people get off of work. And you're wondering why you're not making profits, or maybe there's some issues. Maybe you're wondering why produce is going bad or something, right? But it's like you're closed off during that time window, right? That directly translates to us when we're not able to kind of comprehend opportunities that come our way because we're worried about different things, such as solely focusing on a resume, such as solely focusing on classes, and maybe having some blockers up where we're not able to be receptive to something, right? So that's just like a little food for thought for everybody. Like, you need to be receptive to some of these opportunities, because that's how you then start creating them, because you're able to take them on and then those can transfer to different things. So it's like a very large skill set that we need to build on. That's what Trey's been able to adopt, and that's why he's had a lot more luck, because now he's not kind of just taking what comes his way. He's able to just go out and make these weird things happen, which appear to be lucky, really cool, but it's really tactical and awesome and fun. That's the best way to live. But going back to like these initial strategies, so we had like 7 SpaceX people lined up to kind of work on and talk to and just try to make something happen out of, right? So one was obviously the interview, connecting back to what you said with Julie and everything, but we were also leaning towards potentially a technician position, and then we had this tour with this guy too, right? So touch on a few the other paths that you might not have mentioned just yet, unless you already touched on one, but like I definitely want to talk about the technician at least.
Yeah. So there was a variety of them. I applied to, I mean, pretty much every opportunity, which really wasn't that many. Like they make it very general. It's pretty smooth. The application process, takes a little bit, but it's very general. But I did have a really good connection through a friend of mine, because I just found out that they had a brother that worked at SpaceX. So of course I was like, yep, I'm gonna need that number. And so reached out to him, trying to, as much as I can, to add value. And I'll loop back, but just to touch on something you just said, it really is like a wavelength, right? And there's so many, like it's a spectrum, and you want to hit like every wavelength. And I think something that I missed out on a year, 2 years ago, was the people part. It's actually, in my opinion, and this is an opinion to be clear, it's, I think, the most important part, because it's literally like what makes all the difference. So I've just been focused on that like so much more. And what people don't understand about coaching is it's like actually having someone to keep you accountable on that and be there for you when it comes to not just, I don't want, people to watch this and think like if you reach out to 40 people, you're going to get your dream job. It's also reaching out to the 40 people in a week, and maybe every single one of them doesn't respond to you, but you have goals that next week to reach out to another 40 people, right? So that's the important part that really paid off. So when I reached out to this guy, same mindset. His name was Nate. He was a technician, a lead technician at SpaceX. And so he actually let me know to keep him updated with the hiring process for the engineering position. But he was also very helpful in the sense that he said, if I'd like, he can totally push my application through for a technician role. So, going back to what we were just talking about, like picking and choosing, I didn't want to just be like, okay, yeah, let's do that, let's go. But I did want to run that race while also running the aerospace engineering race, and having that as like a backup, a choice, leverage of opportunities, options, right? We love options. So I had a couple phone calls with him. That went incredible. He was super helpful. And I was very confident that if I wanted to, I could be a technician at SpaceX, which is still really good pay. You don't technically need like an aerospace engineering degree to do that, but you do need like 3-4 years of experience, which is kind of what the gap of having an engineering degree would fill, because I don't have any technician experience. So that was very helpful. And there were a couple things like that for for civil engineering, for infrastructure, which is kind of like the area I'm in as a launch engineer internship. Like so many, and not even just SpaceX, like Blue Origin, same thing is going on. L3 Harris, just a lot of connections connected to jobs. And the first thing I always try to do is um, literally, like, as soon as you connect with one person, just find all their friends and like people that they like to work with. And I'll say like, oh yeah, I've only heard nothing but good things from James about XYZ. Like, what's your take on this? And then they want to give an opinion because they're like, okay, well, James is talking to this guy, because they don't know me. Like, why would they talk to me? They don't know me anything. But maybe if they're like, oh, well, James is talking to him, so I'll talk to him. And James is just a random name that I just thought of. But it's things like that really compound and really build. So I was trying to just once I landed that interview and I knew who was interviewing me, I literally went through every single connection he had, I feel like, and just a couple of them, they definitely communicated like behind the scenes because of the way some things planned out. And then, of course, some Kimley Horn individuals, like I talked to them. That was part of his network. I was like, wait, he knows someone I worked with, Kimley Horn. Like, never would have found that out if I didn't consistently, reach out to people that completely ignored me, but kept going, and it paid off.
1,000% right. And then for everybody watching too, when you're reaching out to people and you're like defining where you want to go and what your career looks like, you need to manage the conversations as well. It's not only about reaching out, and that's kind of what we talk about as well, where we reach out, then we tactically plan how to make the most of the situation. And not that we're always looking like to see what we can get out of the situation, but if we're intentional about the conversations in each situation, you never know when you're going to be able to help someone else as well. So it's really your responsibility to take these conversations seriously. Every conversation, every interaction, every handshake, all of these should be documented, taken seriously, and treated with intention because that's how you maximize your life. Otherwise, you're just kind of floating by. And unfortunately, I did that for a long time, early on in my career. That's why we developed FormAWin because a lot of other people do too. And I wish I had my book of business as far as from freshman to junior year when I really started taking things seriously, because that would have been an amazing list of contacts and an amazing list of people I wish I would have helped. And, everybody else watching right now, today's your day to start with that. And you can hear more about my story too. I'll link another video right here as far as like what my story was, how I got to my first position and stuff. But something that Trey talked about with these contracting roles and this technician role and what we're looking at the end of the day, if you're an engineer, like that can mean a lot of different things. And our goal is to graduate, get an awesome job at an awesome career or wherever we want to go to, whatever our goals are, right? So however we get our foot in the door and then we can get inside the company and then really make a name for ourselves, that's the strategy. That's a good strategy as well. So we were hammering all of these doors and that's really what just led to us to get to where we want to get to, right? So I'd like to transition now into SpaceX as far as what was the interview process like? Why don't you break that down for us?
Technical. Short answer. Long answer. It was great. So he actually, something that I hope we get into later in the call about the most recent meetup that I learned a lot from was like not just being like, oh, I'm a student, like I'm an aerospace engineer, like actually talking about myself. And the first thing this guy says when he gets on the interview call is he says, hey, like, just want to tell you a little bit about me. And he literally told me zero things about his job, right? Almost setting authority, like making the assumption I know his job. I know, like, I loved it. He told me about how he loves fishing. He loves going to the gym. He told me a bit about his family. I genuinely didn't really know anything he did on his day to day. And I didn't ask because I was like, wait, this is a perfect opportunity. So I just started talking about who I am on a personal level, which, we talked about. So that was very helpful. He kind of gave me the kickoff for that because, maybe I wouldn't have made the mistake of, I'm an aerospace engineering student, right? Which is great. But I mean, that's just one small part. And so that's kind of how the interview started out, just kind of general. He told me about him. I told him about me. And then he just kicked it straight off into not so tell me about myself. He just kind of went through my resume. So definitely be very well prepared to speak about your resume. So don't have anything on there that you didn't genuinely contribute to or work on, or, a lot. I feel like a lot of people stress about that and put stuff on their resume that just maybe shouldn't be there. I mean, you can exaggerate a little, whatever. But if you want it to be something you genuinely worked on, needs to be authentic, that you could talk about endlessly, because he would ask me questions, I would answer, for what I thought was a long, comprehensive answer. And then they would ask specific things about like the problem I solved, whether it's like trade studies I did on a rocket motor, or whether it was like the exact CAD work I was doing at Kimley Horn, like everything. They hit everything on the head, every nail. So you definitely want to be well versed for whatever you have on there. And then it just kind of transitioned into technical questions. So for SpaceX specifically, because what I just talked about is pretty universal from my experience, but for SpaceX specifically, the second half of the call is a 30-minute call. Both of them is two 30-minute phone interviews. The second half of the call was just hammering technical questions. So some of them were about just pretty random, like mathematic questions, physics questions, beam on a wall question that you just have to pull from your career for that. And what a lot of people I think miss is it's not actually about the right answer at all. What they really care about is how do they problem solve? How do they answer the question? How do they address like what they do and don't know? Of course, you want to be like prepared, but you can't learn an aerospace engineering degree in 2 days because your phone interviews, and which I've seen people try to do, by the way. It's pretty impressive, but I personally didn't do that. But I think I answered, the questions well, asked follow-up questions, wanted to make any necessary assumptions, stated those, things like that. Just having an engineering mindset is, I think, more what they care about. Even if you get every question wrong, if you have good, a good thought process, they pick that up quick. So I studied the company and how they work. Like something that everyone goes by at SpaceX is Elon's framework for like engineering. So I tried to implement that framework into every single question I answered, like how I learned from my failures, how I cut out, cycle time before optimizing a process. Like for every question I answered, I had like one of the five. I didn't directly state it. But I know they definitely picked up on it. And that was just research from the company, which is the exact same type of research I did to work at a grocery store for my first job, Public Supermarkets, who was the founder. It's the same thing. It's simple. Like you don't have to overcomplicate it. And so yeah, that pretty much wrapped up. I mean, both the interview calls were practically the same. It was just two different people, different questions, obviously. But yeah, two different engineers, and first half was just a lot about me, my resume, what I've done, projects I've worked on, this, that, and the other. And then the second half was technical questions, seeing how I answer them, and then also looping back to my resume and like how I've maybe implemented some of my knowledge into my projects. So, and then I ended it off asking them questions specifically of what they're working on, also with research. I mean, that's something. If I wasted time on trying to get a perfect, question bank of 100 questions correct, and then they asked me none of those, right? I'd rather know a ton about exactly what the company's doing right now. And I definitely think I got my excitement across for like the ramp up SpaceX is about to see at Cape Canaveral specifically. I even mentioned a couple things that I worked on at Kimley Horn that I really wanted the job. So, but yeah, I mean, that was pretty much it.
Awesome, Trey. Yeah, that's that's a really masterclass for interviews as well as what SpaceX looks like. So I love that. Everybody, you have all that, right? To kind of just pause in the video for everyone, make sure you're taking notes, right? And apply some of these things in your next situation that you're getting out of, because that's also a good purpose for this. A lot of people talk about maybe watching stuff or like if you're watching something like this and not taking something away from it, then it's no different than entertainment, right? And you can go be entertained elsewhere. I'd rather people watch this and change and develop and improve themselves. So please do that. Just take that responsibility. And I think that covers a lot of what we talked about with SpaceX. So I mean, not much there. So, some you did bring up at the beginning for everybody that might have been questioning is we had a FormAWin meetup with some of our clients, and it happened to be, I believe, the day before your interview, right, or 2 days or something like that. So
Yeah, a couple days, yeah.
so that's great. So that was awesome timing as well. But why don't you talk about the meetup as far as like what that looked like and what you enjoyed out of it? And I'll play some clips for everybody in the background too.
Yeah. So we all met up. It was great. It was super eventful. It was really nice to, obviously see you in person. And like we have these calls every single week, these trainings, things all about implementation. So it was really cool to basically get that live in person. Same action out of Coach Mike, but a little cooler in person, right? If only they could all be, right? But there could be people watching in here that are on, completely different time zone because it's universal. But I was fortunate enough to where it wasn't that long of a drive for me. And it was super great. We started out with getting better at introductions, like something people don't think about. Like I think coaching is something that people don't realize they need it until they have it. Like you just have to give yourself that chance, that opportunity, and have the growth mindset to be coached, not just mentored, or not just, like you said, watching a video. There's a difference between watching a video and the ones who take notes and write down the right words and take action from them. And that's what we were doing at the meetup. And it was great because we were literally live working on introductions. And it took me like a while to actually just introduce who I am. And you would think that's an easy thing to do. But I kind of realized like, wow, like I've been doing this wrong, because what I would normally say is, hello, at a networking event or whoever. Hello, my name is Trey. I'm an aerospace engineering student at UCF. Blah, blah. Like everybody says that. Everybody gets a piece of paper. Like, not to discredit an engineering degree. It's incredible. If anyone's watching this, like, good luck on whatever you got going on. But it's not the only piece of the puzzle, right? It's the things like that allowing, like I think I've mentioned, to articulate like who you are, establishing a personal connection. That is so much more important, because even after the interview, when they put in like your score sheet, like if you have a personal connection with them, they're not going to just write about the technical questions you got wrong. They're going to be like, hey, I really like this guy. Like, and they're going to put in that extra mile because maybe you made them laugh, or maybe you asked them a really good question about what they're doing. Maybe you didn't. It's fine. And so we were just learning a lot of that. A lot of implementation was very helpful. And then just getting it back to consistency. Like actually implementing what we're learning from Coach Mike here and the FormAWin mission, was something I really picked up at the meeting in person, because I can also like learn a lot better with things in person. So and writing out our goals. Actually, have like my notebook right here for my goals that I've been following. So we literally did like a day, a week, a month timeline, like actually setting it out. I forget what the percentage is, but if you write down your goals, look this up after the video, but I'm pretty sure it's like 70 to 80% more likely to achieve a goal if you write it down. Those numbers can be wrong, but it's above 50. And that's all that matters. And that's what we were doing. And like actual, like timeline, like realistic, like I'm not going to put, well, actually I did write that, but realistic goals, for things that could be possible and how you'll actually get there. And like, so one of the things I put, of course, was getting a full-time offer from SpaceX in August, ideally, right after the internship. So, but not just writing that, but how am I going to get to that? So every single week, I want to be going to the events that SpaceX hosts. They do a bunch of networking events that a lot of engineers probably don't go to, and just making all the connections I can, getting buddy with the propulsions engineers early on, because I do kind of want to transition to propulsions eventually. So just a whole bunch of that. And even like next steps, like just getting consistent in the gym, eating healthier, balancing all my club work that I got going on right now with senior design and classes and everything else. And just like taking action, staying consistent on it, and keeping accountable for the goals through coaching.
Awesome, Trey. Yeah, and just some other things that we did, and then I mean everybody just saw some of the clips. Some of the things we did was LinkedIn branding, some direct connects. We did a whole master class basically. It was a short day. We budgeted for I believe like 7 or 8 hours, and realistically next time we probably need to make it like a little bit longer with 2 like 6 hour shifts maybe or something like that, because there's a lot to go over. There's a lot to change, and we're looking to do this quarterly at some point, because it's really important, especially as you're actually getting in your career as an intern and engineer. All of this stuff really comes to play, because a lot of people then get into these places. They either think they made it or they're comfortable, then they stop growing and learning. And we already talked about that, right? Learning is, again, something you should be doing today, tomorrow, and every single day for the rest of your life, right? So that's the biggest mission. And I think we talked a lot of, a lot of good stuff here, Trey. I think that we went over FormAWin, how you got into SpaceX, and I think everybody watching is going to take a lot out of this, right? So as far as closing up, let's kind of recap a little bit. You went through your journey, you made these dreams happen. I want to talk with, any other closing remarks you have, and then what your goals are for the future.
Oh, closing remarks, I guess, would be a little piece of advice. If anyone wants to, advance their career, get a full-time offer, maybe salary increase, internship, whatever it is, just pause the video before I say this next part and click the link below. I'm assuming there's a link below, so just click that. Fill it out, probably takes like 10 seconds. So 10 seconds could change your life. We were just talking about an event that was 8 hours, right? And I would do it again, right? I wish it was like 24 hours because those 8 hours may change the rest of your life. Like one LinkedIn connection, one person, like I know when I'm an engineer one day, like I'll be the guy that if someone reaches out to me and this is the place I want to be, like this is where Coach Mike is. He's passionate about it. He wants to help people out. Like that's why he started FormAWin. And I hope like one day I'm in a position, even as an engineer, like Mr. Dalio here, that I can help others out, right? So like if I see anybody DM me, like they could be the cashier at the grocery store. They want a job at SpaceX. Like I'm going to try to help, right? Or just do anything I can. And that's something that when I think about it, I'm excited. And I want other people who are where I was like literally a year ago or still now kind of, because I'm still climbing, to understand that it's so possible. It just takes consistency. And it's really, really hard to be consistent on your own. Unless you're already really good about it and you've already learned it from, another coach, right? But just getting that down early, it's crazy the amount of people I meet that are of a much older age. They spend, tens of thousands of dollars on coaching and like when they're at that career, I'm talking like really high up guys, like they're spending money on coaching, like it's crazy. And it's like you gotta start young. Like you gotta invest in yourself young, have a growth mindset young, because it's really like now, like the planting the seeds that makes all the difference, in the long run. So I would recommend to anyone watching, just invest in yourself by clicking the link below, and seeing if you can work with Coach Mike here. And then what was the second question? Shoot that by me one more time.
Your future goals, but I'll add one more thing really quick, and then we got a bunch of free resources too. So when you fill that out below, it'll give you some free stuff as well. We got awesome stuff down there. And then the biggest thing, kind of recap what he just said, is you don't know what you don't know. The only way to know what you don't know is by getting closer to people that have hit goals that you want to achieve, and then work towards getting closer to them and learning what they know. So that's the biggest thing. But future goals, yeah.
Yep. Love it. So, future goals, definitely kick ass at this internship. I'm already like right now, I'm actively studying up on my AutoCAD. I already reached out to the engineers that I'll be working with and asked them like what I can learn. And they told me to get really well versed with Revit, which is like an AutoCAD software. So, going to be doing that for sure. I'll probably take like a LinkedIn course or two and just play around with it. So getting like technically prepared so that I come in strong. I understand they'll probably have training and, I'd be able to do that there. But if there's like 10 interns coming in, I want to be that top 10% that, comes in with more experience. And they understand that I've never used Revit, right? But they know like with the civil job, well, they don't even teach civil engineers AutoCAD, which is crazy because it's like the standard. But I came into it not knowing what it was and just worked really hard at it. So going to do the same for this one. Going to network as much as possible. So future goals on a weekly basis would be to 10 new connections. There's gonna be a lot of people working there, and there's only gonna be new people. So I want to be like their first smile. Even if I'm an intern, like I don't want to just think of myself as the intern, right? I want to try to set myself up for a 10 plus career at SpaceX. Not knowing whether or not I'm going to be there 3 months from now, but I'm going to do my best to manifest it and work hard for it. And then just getting a full-time offer. I mean, that would just be incredible, and have the ability to choose between two amazing, amazing companies with just the smartest people on earth. So that's the ultimate goal for sure. So it's going to be a weekly implementation, daily, hourly, minutely, secondly, really, but to get there. But that's the big one for sure to wrap it up.
Awesome stuff, Trey. It sounds like you have quite a mission coming up, and it's been fun. We're going to be doing lots of things together. I know you're going to be helping out with FormAWin a little bit, so lots of big things coming up. And then, for everybody else too, we're also launching something. By the time that you all see this, it's already going to be uploaded and done. Probably we're doing a 30 days how to accelerate in your engineering internship. which is a really cool thing. We always try to do stuff differently with FormAWin, and anybody can go make a course. So we're going to make one in our style, but we're also going to be doing it, showing live how I have done it. So it's going to be really cool. It's going to be live me doing it. So go check it out, guys. We got everything. We got you guys covered. Trey, thanks for coming. Everybody else, go FormAWin, crush your dreams. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.